welcome to Clamped, the weekly podcast where we discuss all things related to creating, living, and making projects. And joining me this week, as always, is Adam Mackey and Jessy Ratfink, and I'm the host, Grant Alexander, which I forgot to say. This week, we're going to be talking about, can editing go too far? And if Mackey did his job right, you won't even know that I forgot to say I'm the host, Grant Alexander, because he'll edit it in there real nice. But
I'm going to actually edit in where you talk about being a dictator in the pre-show. Right. So you say, I am dictator, Grant Alexander.
Hey, I never said dictator. I'm the make-tator.
You just said it. I can copy that.
This is not a makeocracy.
I got him to say it. It worked.
All right. So we actually don't want to talk too much about it being podcasting really related, though we can talk about how the other day, and this is something that I've heard on some podcasts where they take out every single pause, which makes it difficult to listen to because there's natural pauses and cadences to the way people speak. And if you have a software that can take all of that out, yeah, it's faster, but is it better? And now maybe Adam can explain what happened.
So essentially, there is a program that I run our podcast through that levels everything out. And somewhere between, I don't actually know what happened. I deleted the program and reinstalled it and it fixed it. But somewhere between exporting the file and then leveling it, it somehow ran through a process of removing every word. So, but it wasn't as bad as like cutting out every blank space. It was literally cutting off like words. I don't understand what happened exactly. All I know is I deleted my editing program, I deleted the leveler program, reinstalled it all, and everything worked fine. So some setting somewhere was messed up. I don't know if I've misclicked something or something, but it's not doing it now. So,
right. So can editing go too far? When it comes to audio, I actually think it can. And so we can even talk a little bit about audio before we get into like Photoshop and all the other type of editing. But like think about auto-tune, right?
Yeah.
People talk about like, is auto-tune a bad thing or a good thing? And when I think about listening to music, I'm a weird person. I prefer the auto-tune studio produced versions of songs over the live show versions. I'm like, the live shows suck. I wasn't there. Even if I was there, I'd be like, I could just listen to this at home and it would sound better. So I don't understand why I want to be there. There's like crowds and stuff, and it's never like perfect. And the one that they made for the album's perfect. It's wonderful. But there's other people who feel differently.
I feel differently. I like watching live recordings and stuff.
Band, though.
Yeah. But then in saying that today, like today's day and age, the audio recording at concerts, like the professional ones, not like someone recording with their phone, has actually gotten really good. Like it's not as bad as it, like it's very high quality these days.
The quality of the recording itself isn't what I'm talking about though, because I agree that the quality is superb when it doesn't sound like you're someone standing in the crowd with a microphone. It sounds like it's, really good. But I'll say the like chorus of a song on a studio version, if it's repeated, they use one. They don't use a different one every time they repeat it, right? So it always sounds really good. Right.
I like that it's different though. That's
some people do.
And I like the fill in. I like hearing like what they talk about between songs and like talking to the crowd and all that sort of stuff. Like there's a Parkway Drive live set, like the whole concert set. And I have watched it that many times that even when I listen to the song in the car, I'm saying what he's saying on stage, thinking that he's like I'm repeating the live version. But then in saying that as well, there's also like, if a band puts on an amazing show, then I want to see it. Like Electric Callboy, they literally change their outfits like for every different song and stuff. And like they put on such a good show. It's so good.
Yeah, that's see, I will listen to like a recording from like a concert, but I always want it to be like the individual tracks. I can't do all the unfiltered. So yeah, I definitely need like quite a bit of editing to make it good that I'll listen to it
Well-
over and over again. Yeah.
These days with YouTube, most people put in the description like the list, and you can skip through to each song.
Yeah, I only
And-
watch YouTube on my TV. So I am an old woman and the chapter markers don't always work on that.
Right. I can't watch it on the TV because for some reason all the TV apps can only do it at 1 time speed.
Oh, really? Oh, I've never played around
Wait.
with that. I'm curious.
You listen to music at more than 1 time speed.
I don't listen to music.
No, just YouTube is what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just talking about
Right.
YouTube. Yeah. Any
Well,
YouTube
and
I watch at a minimum of 1.5, and depending on what it is and how people speak and how slowly they speak with their very slow voice, sometimes I'm like, I can't listen to this, so I need to do it at 2 times speed. And I did that really slowly so that like Keith listening right now could understand, because he's listening to it at 3 times speed, because that's how
Oh
he
my
listens
God.
to 700 podcasts a week.
Oh, my brain can't do that. I can't keep up with it. But so even talking about auto editing on podcasts, the opposite of the problem we have, we had a couple weeks ago is like exactly what I hate, where they don't take out any pauses. And sometimes there will be a long enough pause that I think my phone has fucked up. I've like paused it accidentally and I'm having to like look. Like that is very hard for me. So I do like a like maximum pause length in audio stuff because otherwise I feel like I've missed something and everybody left.
You're muted.
Damn
I
it.
hope this
I'm
gets
muted.
edited out.
It won't. So I know Grant has an answer to this, but is there a point where removing every single little bit of silence is needed or worth it? Because some editing that I've done in the past, there was a request from Grant to remove more blank space, because in like podcasts, like people naturally take a breath, like I just did.
Mm.
So like you don't want to cut that out because it doesn't sound natural.
That right there between when you said that and I answered, that was too long.
That needs to be cut out. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, if it's like a few seconds or more, it's sort of cut it. But doing it so much that you don't hear any spaces can sometimes make it feel like I'm listening to something at 1.5 speed, even though it's at regular
But
speed.
is there a point where, is there anything where that should be done? Is my question.
Yes.
Mhm.
There's definitely times where you should be taking out all of the pauses, and I think it depends. Like we're having a conversation here, so we need to have it conversationally. But I think if you're trying to maybe you're telling a story, you need to be you need to use the spaces right,
Yeah.
as opposed to like however you said it is the way it goes. No, you should be trying to make it work with the emotions you want to get across. Right.
Yeah.
That's even so. If you want to talk about like editing podcasts, the Making Our Way, and there's a giant pause there because there's a comma. Uh, they edit for time and content, so they actually edit what people say.
Oh.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
Because they
That
have
is
a.
too much effort. I like.
It all depends.
No, but
I
to
think
be
they
honest,
do a
though,
really good job. So
I'm sure they do, and it depends on the type of podcast you are. I think, because I personally prefer more of a raw conversation than edited conversations when it comes to a
but
podcast.
so when they have a goal in mind of what to talk about,
Yeah.
and I think their goal is to try and get this this project discussed and get
Yeah.
these questions asked and have the answers that are relevant to what was asked, right? And our goal is to have a conversation about a topic. So we just have different goals, and I think
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
right. So it's not like a different way. It's more of a it's a different way, not a better way, right?
Yeah.
And I really think that they do a good job with their editing, and they probably put in a lot more effort than we do. But since I'm not willing to do it, I'm
Well,
okay with the amount of effort we are putting in.
the amount of effort, and time that I put into editing to get what we get, I would hate to think how much time and effort it takes to do that sort of editing. Because a good
Yeah.
1 hour episode takes me at least 4 hours to edit.
Right. Well, and this is where I kind of like why I suggested we stop doing reels and shorts is because I saw how much time it would take because someone has to go through and listen to it and pull those out, and then someone else has to go through and like edit them, and I wasn't seeing the return, and I looked at it and went, and then on top of that, I have to do a bunch of work too. Like I probably had the least amount of work, but I was like, it's still work for every one of us.
Yeah.
Like Jessy would go through and pull out all the timings. Adam would go through and make the reels,
And it wasn't.
and they were hard because there's sometimes they're like a minute and a half is the conversation, so then you'd have to zip them down.
Yeah. And it wasn't as simple as just like going in, Jessy goes from this time to this timestamp, and then I just go, done, edit, timestamp, cut, done. I had to then change the format into a screen, so it's 1920 by 1080 or whatever it is. I had to move everyone around, and then I had to work out, okay, well, who should be on the screen talking at what point. And then once I started doing the subtitles. If I was in like the Brady Bunch is what we call it, where we have everyone on the screen, I had to move the subtitles to somewhere else because they were in the wrong spot. But then on top of that, my stupid editing program will only let you export with one subtitle track on.
Oh my God.
So I had to export them. I had to export with like the subtitles in the top spot, and then I had to export again with them in the middle spot, then put those two videos back in the editing program, cut it back up again, and remove so that it was a big thing just to get the subtitles to be in the right spot.
Well, I would say if I'd known there were that much work, I would have suggested we not do it. I'm sorry.
It wasn't that bad. Like, I make it sound worse than it was. Like, it didn't take me that long, but it is like, it's a process. And it's especially with me, like all my editing and stuff I do at work. I don't really have time at home to be doing things. So like, if I didn't have time at work to get the reels edited or whatever, they were always late. Or if I didn't take my computer with me because I wasn't able to use it during the day or whatever, I didn't really have time to do it.
Yeah.
So that's why we had issues.
Yeah. Let's not complain about ourselves too much because nobody cares. But we can talk a little bit about. So we can talk a little bit that we can shift from the editing of audio, and we've already started talking about the video editing, and maybe we could talk a little bit about can video editing go too far and what is too far, right?
Definitely.
So there's times where I know I have shot from specific angles to get the best looking side of something.
Yeah.
Right. And I think if you're shooting from an angle, you're editing, you're like self-editing real life. Right. I think that's something we talked about before. You're editing real life by only shooting the good side of something.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's going too far because you're still going, like, you're 100% showing a real life thing. And there has nothing been changed about it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on your intent. Like, it does. Are you just showing like one good piece, but the project's actually a piece of shit and is going to get thrown in the bin because it's like the rest of it is rubbish? Or are you just showing the best out of the four corners sort of thing? But it's still a good project. You just want to show off the best part, obviously.
Right. So when I look at my projects, I definitely show off the best part. Like, I'm definitely trying to put that side that has the interesting grain in the front part. Right.
Yeah. Which is understandable.
Right. So is it, I'm editing because I'm not showing the other side. Or if I have a mistake, I definitely don't show the mistake unless I'm trying to show like how to fix the mistake. But if I got a mistake that's going to be on the backside of a cabinet and it's not relevant, I don't show it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess with video, maybe just because I'm not as familiar with it, I don't really know of any examples I can think where I'm like, oh, this is too much. More
CGI?
for me, no, because I'm
The
just impressed
deer in
anybody can do
Walking
that
Dead?
shit.
Come on.
I mean, but at least if it's bad, I enjoy it. But I guess like when I'm thinking for makers, it's more, I might notice like, what are you leaving out? But, for someone who is doing videos for a really long time, I probably wouldn't even notice that they were sort of taking my eyes away from a certain thing. I think it's more people who are just slapping a video together really quick and you notice very very quickly that they might like, yeah, only show you one side or only show you a part of it, or it's supposed to be mounted to the wall and it's not quite mounted. Like for me, it's more the why aren't you showing me that instead of what are you doing to, like, I guess, alter the footage, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, like, and you can talk. We talked a little bit about this in the pre-show, but like, there's some people who go through and like color correct and like spend a long time like getting particular color
I used to.
temperatures so
Mm-hmm.
that they have a particular emotion in their video that they're interested in.
I didn't
Right.
go
And
that far.
that what?
I didn't go that far. I color graded every clip, but I didn't go as far as go, this clip needs to be dramatic and make it darker
Right.
or anything like that.
But there's definitely people who do that, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Well,
yeah,
I mean, the
color correcting,
movies, that's the whole
color
point.
correcting makes sense. Like you're trying to make it look like real life because the camera
Mm-hmm.
didn't pick up what you saw
Yeah.
or what you think you
Well,
saw, right?
most people record in a way, I did, where it's the camera purposely makes it all one flat grade.
Okay. I don't know anything at all about this. All I know is that you can change the temperature and that if it's cold or warm, you get different emotions out of people. And I go, I like the cold ones because it looks like real life because I have all 7,000 Kelvin bulbs in my garage. And
Yeah. Well, mine are all
like that's real.
5500.
Yeah, 5,500. I don't know what they
Yeah.
are, but they're crazy.
So fancy cameras, like the ones used in movies, they record in black and white. Well, they record the color, but so raw footage is essentially kind of like black and white, and then they add the color, they turn the color on in post. So raw footage is
Oh,
essentially, so that's how they color grade like in movies and stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So,
that's
can you go too far? Is it too far if you're changing? Like, I see some people like showing off walnut, and some people show off walnut, and I go, I've never seen walnut look that dark in real life. And I
Mm.
wonder, are they
yes.
editing it, or is that like? I also realize that I haven't lived 1,000 lives and seen every walnut tree, right? There could be walnut that's that dark. Am I just? Is it an editing thing, or is it real life? And I'm not, and I'm an idiot. I don't know, right?
Yeah, I think
I
it's an
mean,
editing thing.
I guess like I want to say yes, you can, but then isn't that the whole point of like in-camera editing and stuff is to get the perfect shot, is to get the right angle and to
Right.
show off the piece. I mean,
But
I guess
we're
it's
not
actually
on
the point of
angles
making the
anymore.
video. No, but like the point of making the video is to show off, if that's your purpose, is to show off the work you've done. So you're going to want to show the best parts and the best part, like scenes and stuff.
So, yes, but like when we get back to color, I so I have a bit of an issue with people who swing really to either end of the spectrum and they do super blue filtering or super yellow filtering. My line when it comes to color and light, like it just can't look unnatural. Because I know when I edit my photos, a lot of times I will up the saturation a little bit and up the contrasts a little bit just so that it looks like brighter and more like it did when I was doing it, because the lighting isn't always perfect. You have to like fudge things a little. But when I'm watching a maker video, I guess, and it was like the sky is almost green from how much tinting they've done with the colors or something crazy like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
That would make me pause. I guess that's the only thing. If it starts to look unnatural, I wonder why the hell you're doing that.
So my response to that is, are they editing too much or are they just doing a bad job?
It could be either.
Because maybe they just don't know what they're doing and don't know how to bring up the color where they need it without changing the sky to green, or don't know. It's like when I first started editing pictures, I was like, auto is my best friend because I could not work it out. Now I'm a lot better at it, but I would always I'd show someone a picture, they'd be like, why is there it's so too much vibrance in it? Like there's too much color. Like what's going on? It doesn't look natural.
And you're like, but it pops.
I thought it looked good, but yeah, now I know the difference. But yeah.
Oh, I totally get it. And I've definitely had those times where I go, well, this pops. This looks amazing. Right? It's the same with so if you think of videos where they do like black and white, or photos where they do black and white, but then they have one color pop out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, if done right, that can be like a really telling part of the story, where there's only one thing is red and everything that's red is that thing. And then red becomes the reason the whole story is built around this color that then pops out. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if some things are red and then other things are green, and there doesn't seem to be rhyme or reason. So I think with everything, you can use editing to your advantage to tell a story, to make it better. And you can use it incorrectly because you don't know what you're doing. And then you can also try and tell a story with the colors, but you've gone too far.
Mm-hmm.
So something we haven't talked about in too much, I think, is transitions. Because there are people out there that will transition, not just like a fade or whatever, like a full-on transition, like a flash for every single clip.
Yep.
And that is too much.
I remember the first couple of videos I made, and they're deleted on YouTube, so you can't find them anymore. I used my video thing came with transitions. So I was like, yeah, I'll drag and drop a transition between all the clips.
Yeah.
There's barn doors opening and roly-polies and a star swipe and all this fun stuff. And I was like, these are so cool, right? The first time somebody takes a PowerPoint course at work, and then they come back and it's just all transitions on every single PowerPoint slide, and you go,
dancing text.
Yeah, it's so hard to watch, but you think it's cool because you're an idiot and you're new.
Yeah.
I got nothing else to say about that.
Well,
go for it, Adam.
Okay. I was going to say, before we move on too far away from it, with the getting the angle to show certain parts and stuff, it's also what you don't see behind the camera. I have a reel or a TikTok or whatever the hell it was when I made it, where I'm standing behind the camera, you can see through the screen of what it can see, and then I turn around and show what's behind the camera, and my shop is a complete mess.
Yep.
Yeah, people honestly though, I am very happy that people are starting to pay more attention to stuff like that. Really staging their photos. That to me is not taking anything too far, and I am so happy that people self-edit. Because when I think back to the early days of Instructables, and someone is making in their basement, and there's 6 by 6 inches on their workbench open, and that's it, and they place their project there to take a picture, and you can't even tell what is supposed to be the focal point of the picture. There's so much stuff in it. So yeah, I love that. I love staging photos.
Disagree.
In saying that, a bare workbench can look just as bad. And that's something that I've learned.
So I think it all depends on what your purpose is and what you're trying to put across. So there's ways of making messy look good. There's ways of making messy look bad. There's ways of looking clean look good. There's ways of looking clean looks bad, right? I think it all depends. You can make it look too clinical, and then you're like, I don't think you actually did this, right?
Yeah. If Jimmy's DeResta's shop was pristine condition, you'd be looking going, what the hell? That's not who he is. That doesn't seem right.
Right. But even if there's those times where you like, and I was listening to the Builder Sessions podcast, and they were talking with Bodhi from, she does Power Block TV. She does like a girl power girls. It's an all girl TV show where they work on cars, and she was like, she talked about this website. It's like girls holding tools incorrectly, and it's like these camera people give them tools to hold, and they hold on to them incorrectly, and there's like a whole website dedicated to it, and it's like a whole thing because it's the same thing that if you saw a workbench that was too clean, you would think, I don't believe this was made here because this doesn't look, it looks
Yeah.
staged, too staged, right? Beyond staged.
I
And
just
that's
don't
where,
know about all this.
so
Well,
I started taking some photos of my stuff with a white background to
Mhm.
try and make thumbnails. And we'll move
Yeah.
into thumbnails and photography on editing. Because
photography.
that's really what's photography. uh, if we had a really good editor, you wouldn't know I fucked up that word, but we don't. So,
Instead, the
uh,
editor
No,
made fun of you.
I like us to be raw. People
right.
need to
And
know who we really
I
are.
would love us to be a little bit more polished, but I don't want to do the editing. So,
Be my
anyways,
guest.
yeah, exactly. So it's not going to happen. But so this is where in photography, like I had these like white backgrounds and lots of lighting and like lighting trying to cast the shadow in the way I wanted the shadow to come across, right? With the side lighting and extra lighting and lots of extra lighting, and then I'd like go in and I'd Photoshop all the like, because I had like two pieces of wood that were white wood. So I could like see a seam, so I'd get rid of the whole seam, and then I'd make that my thumbnail, and I was like, "This is gonna be awesome." And I realized that it isn't,
No, it looks
because it
completely
looks,
unnatural.
yeah, it looks completely unnatural. There's no reason for
Yeah.
that. Now the project pops, right? You know what I'm working on,
Mhm.
but it may not. I think I edited too far.
I had
Took it out of
the
a natural environment. I did everything that made it so that it just didn't. It doesn't work.
same when I started doing like paracord bracelets and stuff. I bought a light box. It's essentially like a big white plastic
Yeah.
box with a built-in LED to take pictures. And it just like I used the pictures, but I got messages from people being like, "These looks weird. Like, why are you selling stuff? Like, are you drop shipping or something?" Because it didn't look like I had made it. It looked like something online because that's what they do.
Yeah, well, and so you have to strike a balance. Like,
Yeah.
when I'm saying clean, I don't mean white backgrounds because I think that looks great for some things, but it also is my personal bias just because I judge so many contests. Like, I really actually want to know what you're about to tell me about. Like, it's necessary. But yeah, I'm more talking just like don't have things that detract from your project. Like if I can't really focus on that, if there's so much clutter on the wall behind you, or the bench is just like so dirty and like mangled, I can't stop staring at it. That's more, I don't know.
But is it
Ugh.
your problem?
Is it my problem? What do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, like everyone has a different level of what's acceptable for the amount of mess. We'll just talk about mess for a second. And like I know me and my wife have a different level of what is acceptable for mess. And her level is much, much, much lower than mine. So she cleans.
Oh.
Right. And if it
Yeah.
got to my level,
right.
I would then clean. Right. But it's the same with you're looking at these pictures going, I can't see it because I'm seeing the mess.
Mhm.
So is it
I'm
your problem?
I don't think so because I think you need to be able, part of sharing something is the presentation. And
Okay.
if it's not obvious what you're presenting to me, I don't know.
Okay.
so I have a few things to specify here. I'm going to bring the pre-show, after show into the show for a second here because the Patreons know about my brother. He would live in a dump. You can't see too much behind me right now. Those drawers behind me are most likely full of old beer bottles, and he would live in absolute trash. My wife is the complete opposite. Everything must be completely clean, and I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm like, I want things to be clean and tidy, but the dishes can wait till after dinner. They don't have to be done right now. In saying that, in the shop, I think that like my workbench at the moment is a bit sort of like bumped up. There's glue stuck to it, that sort of stuff. My wife's like, you need to like sand it or something, like get it back to looking good. And I'm like, but then it doesn't look used.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like I use like it. Like
doesn't have character.
you know, it doesn't have character, and I especially. Yeah, like it doesn't. It just like when I first got it brand new, I'm like, oh, I'm going to keep it pristine forever, and then I was like, just doesn't like it doesn't work. It doesn't like it needs to be used.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I think there's just a line for me where it's just like that is not an appealing thing to look at. I don't know.
I know this is probably like a really stupid thing to think about and do, but so at my work we get boots assigned to us. Like we get like they pay for us and get us brand new boots and all that sort of stuff. I get like 2 a year, and then I could also get brand new bags, and the bags are bright orange because they're made for like going on the train tracks and stuff, so people can see you. I hate getting a new bag, and I hate getting new boots because I look like a newbie. I want my boots to look like they've been worn, and I use my own black bag. I don't use the work bag, but I every time I put on new boots, and I'm like, people are just going to think I'm just like some new person that just got their boots, and I don't know. I want things to look like they're used.
That's an interesting. That's like such an old person problem because going back to that podcast I was listening to, it's like this woman Bodhi who was talking. She was like, she would tell people she was a mechanic, and the young people would just say "cool," and the old people would say, "I don't believe you. Show me your hands."
Mm-hmm.
As if your hands tell the story of whether or not you're a mechanic. And I remember lots of different comments I got on some of my videos where it's like, your hands are too soft. I can tell you're not a real builder. And that's like, okay, buddy, I'm glad you can tell how soft my hands are from this like reel on Facebook. Right? And your drill's too new, you're not a real builder. I'm like, yeah, because I got that one for my birthday and it's like 2 months old, okay? Like, you want to see the old one that stopped working? Like, the one that was 10 years old? I don't understand why, if you have a brand new tool, you're clearly not a thing. So that's the same thing. That's a projection that shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And you should edit your mind so that it doesn't happen that way.
I always have had an issue of always wondering what people. I always stress about what people think of me, so it goes from that.
So I worry about what people think about me a lot, but I would never want like, and maybe this is sort of like a growing up poor thing. Like, I never want to look dirty or like my clothing is worn or like, and it also I think is kind of a lady problem because like it's all about aesthetics and everything has to be perfect. And so it's I don't know, I've never ever considered that, like that my boots would look too new to someone. It's just not something that I ever thought about.
Okay, I don't want to look dirty.
No,
I just
I'm
don't
not
want to
saying
look
dirty.
brand new.
It's just like, yeah, I
just
want to look brand new.
I want my things to look like they've been used, not I've just like day one.
Okay, we're off topic. Let's bring it back onto the. I'm a clamp right now, and I'm going back into editing and Photoshop. We're going to talk about Photoshop. We're going to talk a little bit about some people who Photoshop their thumbnails. And so I have seen some people who Photoshop their thumbnails to the point where it's misleading, right? And other people Photoshop their thumbnails in a way that like highlights the project. Because if you have multiple like views of your project, it's clearly Photoshopped. You didn't build 3 of them, right? And I've seen like some thumbnails where they're showing off different features. It's clearly Photoshopped. That's editing, right? And they've obviously played around with the colors and stuff to make it look real nice. That's not going too far. But say you make a tensegrity table and you Photoshop out the chains that make it work.
No comment.
Is that going too far? Yeah. I think it's going too far.
Definitely. Yeah. That's called clickbait.
I think it's worse than clickbait. It's
Yeah.
100. It's just
Yeah.
lying.
So while you're talking about that, it was reminding me of a video I saw not too long ago, and it's like Sidemen did a video, and it was which thumbnail of theirs is the correct one. So like they would have two thumbnails come up. One's the correct, one's the one they used, and one's different. And it's literally like changing the color of the grass or like changing the color of the ball, like little things that they do just to make it pop.
Yeah.
And it made me realize like how much people edit their thumbnails.
So, Chad's Custom Creations, he did some laser videos and he changed the color of his eyes to be more like laser like,
Oh my gosh.
right?
Wow.
And they're like they stand out like crazy, and they're clearly photoshopped. Like they're not natural, right? But
Yeah.
and then it became a thing that he did because it worked and people were clicking on it, right? And then you get in the video and he obviously doesn't have it. But it's one of those things where you just go like, does it
You should
make
get
it click?
some.
And is it okay? Is it okay to do that? I don't know.
See, I hate clickbait, but it's also a part of life these days. Like it's part, like it. Clickbait is
Yeah.
YouTube, you know. So
We've
it's
discussed that before.
yeah, I know, but it's essentially what we're talking about now is making something look better than it actually is just to get the clicks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's I don't know.
So with this, I think I also have a pretty clear line. Like, I think editing someone's eyes to match their build is freaking hilarious. Or thinking about Jackman works, like Paul Jackman, and his head is always giant, and he like makes
Yeah.
himself look real tiny with a giant head, and that is hilarious. It's great. But I guess, yeah, the very clear line for me is when, yeah, you are saying that your project is something that it isn't, or that it is more complete than it is, or that it can run things that it obviously cannot run. Because I have a real problem with tech videos and like electronics projects with this, because a lot of times people will like design a breadboard circuit and then say they're going to order a PCB and then like show a render of it, or show like maybe just a screen with simulated images on it. Like there's so much like sneaky stuff that goes in to make something look more complete or, more perfect than it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and like thinking about like Jackman, he doesn't just use Photoshop. He also uses forced perspective. So it's forced perspective lying, right? So it's like, is this a giant cell phone that you're looking at? Or is it just really close to my face? Like that
Yeah.
fisherman, you always hold it fully outstretched in your arms. You don't hold it close to your chest because it makes the fish look better in the picture, bigger in the picture, right?
So
Is
one of my
that
True.
favorite
lying or not?
thumbnails is by Bourbon Moth, and I can't remember what exactly he made, but it was essentially like a cabinet with drawers, and he is sitting on the drawer pull. So he's photoshopped himself sitting, and like I love it. I think it's so funny. That to me, I feel is cool, is funny. Like people will look at it. Obviously, it's Photoshop. If you think he's made some gigantic cabinet, you're a moron. But like I think when you're editing for the fun, it's cool. It's worth it. But
I guess this is
if
where
you're trying to be deceiving, like if he then called the video I made a gigantic cabinet, then no, it's not okay.
okay. So here, I'll give an example that I did. So I made a wooden version of my car. It's a toy,
Yeah.
and I used forced perspective to take a picture of it in my driveway.
Yep.
Right, and I did. I actually think a damn good job doing that forced perspective. It turned
It was
out
good. Yeah. I remember
really
that one.
like way better. Like that's the most time I'd ever spent on taking a thumbnail. But the thumbnail and the title is like I made my car out of wood. Is that clickbait? Because it didn't fucking work. So if it's clickbait, I failed at it.
definitely think it is clickbait, but it's also like surely, like by looking at the thumbnail, you could tell that it wasn't actually that size.
I would, yeah, because it wasn't.
Yeah,
Right? But it was like a good job, like showing it in the driveway. I thought,
yeah, for sure, for sure.
I really liked it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's such a hard like. There's no yes, it's clickbait. Yes, it's not. Sometimes
So I think the whole thing comes about what you're saying is like, are you doing it to the point of absurdity? So therefore, it's clearly even like anyone, the common person looking at it, would understand
it's
what
obviously
you're.
fake. Yeah,
It's fake, as opposed to like a deep fake. Like
Yeah.
the deep fakes that you're seeing today are the worst you will ever see deep fakes be. They are going to be better,
and they're so good.
right?
I'm actually, to be honest, I would be terrified to be a celebrity now. Like the amount of deep fake things that are going to come out that are going like, but and not just that, but like, what about the people that actually do the wrong thing and then go, "Oh, that wasn't me. It was a deep fake."
Oh, interesting.
You know, like
Who would never do that?
our Patreons,
Patrons?
You're right.
patrons.
Our Patreon supportive. I want to thank all the Patreon supporters. If you're ever thinking about supporting us, if you think you get $1 of value out of this episode, and you want to, give us some money to help pay for the services we use to, edit the podcast, host the podcast, all that fun stuff, then you can go over to patreon.com/clamp and sign up there. It's $1, as little as $1 an episode, and that then you can get access to fun things like the pre-show, after show, and we have a Discord server where we do a Patreon exclusive chat. So I would appreciate if you could all go over there. But I especially want to thank our F-Clamp level people. We got Scott from Dad It Yourself DIY, Joe Herdina, Rich from Lowen Designs, David Wood from DW Wood Builds, and Brad from I'm Gonna Make. So thank you to all of those people. And Brad, I will have your keychain in the mail very shortly. I promise. Before I head to Winnipeg, I will get it in the mail. It is currently on the workbench being worked on. And with that, let's go to CLAMPmendations.
CLAMPmendations!
So I'm going to suggest that everyone go check out this account. It's called Garage Monkey Song. It is a guy who is in Hawaii, and he does a lot of work with, I think he's retired now, and he's making a lot of different projects for a children's museum. And his name is Gary Fuji, and he's living on the big island of Hawaii. And he's making a lot of cool projects for a children's museum, which is really cool to see, like how he is repurposing products to make interesting, informative, and educational things. And also sometimes he comes across some things that are really ridiculous, and he can't believe what he finds at the thrift store. But he's doing some fun stuff, so you should go check it out.
Alrighty, so mine for this week is the Shitty Rigs Instagram page. It is one of my favorite things ever. Sometimes I actually cackle at the stuff that I see on their Instagram page. They have a lot of just submissions from random people just showing their shittiest rig. So whether that's like audio, video, photography, anything involved with creating content, it's glorious. It makes me feel so much better about all the weird stuff I've done over the years to get the perfect picture. So, if you ever struggle with your videos or your photos, I highly recommend following them because you will see people doing ridiculous things that turn out really well, and it might give you a little bit more confidence.
So when looking at when you posted that and I went over to the website, I was like, yeah, that's how I made all of this. Is I had a clamp for my GoPro, and that's how I filmed all of my videos for a year. I didn't have a tripod. I just clamped it to a ladder, and I moved the ladder around if I needed to, or I clamped it to other parts of my shop, right? And then the other thing I had, which were just different things that I could attach to myself, and none of those videos ever looked good.
Oh no.
But
So,
Yeah,
speaking of shitty rigs, Jesse, what's your monitor sitting on at the moment?
a sculpture book and an actual monitor stand.
Ah.
That you made?
No, it's metal. I bought it off Amazon, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I've had it for a long
Did you have
time.
to assemble it?
Nope.
No. Okay. What's your laptop sitting on? How many
Yeah,
books is
that's
your laptop sitting on? Just one?
two technically, but they're in a box. It's a fancy sculpture box set. Yeah. I mean, it's not any worse than my microphone. My microphone is currently sitting on an Embark DNA testing kit box and a cookie tin that I painted and have sewing supplies in. So
There you go.
it could be worse.
Shitty rig.
Okay, so
Living the
Speaking of
shitty pig's life.
speaking of psycho behavior, my recommendation is a true crime podcast called Psychopedia. My wife sent this through to me, so someone she follows on Instagram shared a screenshot of it. And I started with episode 28, I think it was, and it was called Brazilian Dexter. I never knew this, but there was a guy that, like, the TV show Dexter, which I absolutely love, was based around this guy. So, like, this Brazilian guy, yeah. So Dexter's like a real person, kind of. He's not like a forensic scientist or whatever. But yeah, I just listened to that, really enjoyed it, and now I'm like, I've gone through the first two episodes, so I've gone back to the beginning. But it's actually a really good podcast, really interesting, because so essentially there's a guy and a girl for the podcast. The girl tells the story every episode. The guy doesn't know anything about the story. He's not really
So
into true crime,
it's
so
small
she's
town
trying to,
murder. Okay.
yeah, so she's trying to get him into true crime, sort of, in a way. And but he has a way of, like, bringing the humor, so it sort of, like, breaks up the, like, just down about, like, the killings and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And they do, she does pop quizzes, like, throughout it. So, like, as she's, like, telling the story, it'd be like, did so and so do this after this happened? And then give, like, multiple choice, and he tries to pick, and it's really fun. It's cool.
I just never knew that about the Dexter stuff, and now I have to look up the serial killer.
Yeah, there's the serial
It's
killer. So so the last pop quiz for the Dexter one was, he was 63 years old or something. Did he? I can't remember what the multiple choice was, but one of the multiple choice answers, and it was the correct answer. Did he become a YouTube star? So he had a YouTube channel where he talked about everything. He's written a self biography, and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts. So, like,
Yeah, like,
I've read the, like, Dexter books because I'm a nerd.
I didn't know there was Dexter books. Now I do.
Yes.
I want to read them.
Yeah, they're by Jeff Lindsay. 1 through 3 are pretty good, and then it goes completely off the rails with some dark passenger bullshit. But
So, like, the
1 through 3
TV series.
is really good. Yes, but in the books it was a lot more jarring. Like,
I've heard the
just
books are a
didn't
lot
see
better.
it coming. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
All right.
that's wild.
Well, time for the Ask Us Anything. And this is where Adam's going to edit in the jingle that Jessy sang the other day. Did you forget?
Quotation marks.
Did you forget to put that in there the other day?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, ask us anything. This is I wish I wouldn't have done that because now I realize
I've got a new thing to edit. Yes.
Ask us anything. So this week, DW Woodbuilds, thank you as always for giving us all the questions, basically. How do you deal with trolls and goblins on social media? Grant mentioned we did have this question as a whole episode, but let's just do, quick. Delete and block, because I have no time for anyone's bullshit anymore. I'm too old for that. And that's it.
I will let you know when I get one, because I don't get any comments. I never. I wish I got
Can't get any
trolls.
comments when you don't
No,
post.
but even when I did post though, like I'd be happy if I got trolls. At least then someone was watching and commenting on my stuff.
Right. So what I do is I take out my dice bag and I take out my D20 and I roll
Oh
to
my
see
God.
whether or not I beat their armor class.
Wow.
And if I do, then I take out my bastard sword of troll killing, and I because we already had.
Wow.
If you want to listen to how I actually deal with them, you can go to episode 151. But if you want to know how I would actually deal with trolls and goblins, D&D it up. So I want to thank TF Turning for the theme song. If you want to find us, you can find us on all the social media places by searching for Clampcast. And if you want to write a review, that'd be great. We've realized that if you don't actually use Apple products, it's almost near impossible to write a review on iTunes. So we just appreciate you listening.
Yay, Apple.
Yep.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.